Welcome back to The Matrix. Last time I made a massive ass of myself on the internet. Well, more than usual anyway, as I went on that weird tangent about the Master's timeline with absolute egg on my face. If I just expanded, the real nutty thing is that all of these Masters are the same man, with the same personality, the same incarnation. It's quite hard to believe that the Beaver's Master, with all of his class and elegance, is also able to dress for the occasion. In fairness, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. The Master's timeline is a wormhole of its own, one that I'm gonna pass over to Jacob the Grey.
Cool. So I have a whole video for this?
You've got a minute and a half.
Okay, so let's do the 13th Master from the beginning. The 12th Master, as played by Roger Delgado, regenerates after a battle with the 12th Doctor, appropriately enough, in Doorway to Hell. This leaves us with an entirely non-crispy 13th Master who presumably looks like this. Sometime after his regeneration, he ends up on Tercerus and gets crisped. Whether that be by the events of the two Masters or Legacy of the Daleks is anybody's guess, but it's definitely the two Masters. The 13th Master, as played by Jeffrey Beavers, tries and fails to regenerate, producing this pseudo-body as played by Peter Pratt. According to the events of Trail of the White Worm, the decayed Master's use of the Eye of Harmony at the end of the Deadly Assassin heals him up enough to look like Jeffrey Beavers again. Then we get to the events of Keeper of Traken, and the 13th Master possesses the body of Tremis of Traken, attaining a new body at last. Then he goes through his televised run with a brief pit stop in the Expanded Universe until the events of Survival. See, the Expanded Universe had a few different ideas on how the Master gets from the events of Survival to the television movie. According to the 8 Doctors, the Tremis Master finds a snake, swallows a snake, and then gets executed by the Daleks. According to the Virgin New Adventures, the Tremis Master gets his body all fixed up by the Tsoon, regenerates after a shot in the chest, and ends up looking a bit like Basil Rathbone. This incarnation would, according to the novel of the film, be executed by the Daleks at the beginning of the television movie. Now, according to Big Finish, the Tremis Master's body gets torn apart by the Warp Core shortly before the events of dust breeding, returning him to the decayed body that lay beneath the Trakenite surface. Then he ends up as a pawn in the game between the 7th Doctor and Death herself in Master. Casual stuff. Some point after this, according to Mastermind, the Master swallows the Deathworm Morphin and is eventually captured by the Daleks at the Valley of Kings, and is placed on trial by the Daleks, as seen at the beginning of the television movie. So one of these 3 Masters is the one that gets executed and looks like his handsome Canadian actor. After the Bruce Master is sucked into the Eye of Harmony, he reconstitutes himself in the Time Vortex. With the Time Vortex breaking down his body, he ends up escaping for the final time in the Forgotten, where he possesses a series of human beings, all of whom would eventually revert back into the decaying visage of the 13th Master, before meeting his final end during the events of Planet of Dust, and then he is resurrected as the Bald Master in the Day of the Master. Does that make sense?
Woo! Ha! The Master of the Master there, everybody. Maybe he could just take over my show from now on. The Crispy Master has a radio show, so let's jump over to the sensual, dulcet tones of I Am the Master, in which the Jeffrey Beavers Master whispers in your ear for 45 minutes. Because every now and then, for some reason, the Master cloaks his TARDIS as a recording booth. He has a sound studio. Okay, fine, go with it. Everyone's got their hobbies. God knows he's got the face for radio. By transmitting the broadcast, he radicalizes and recruits new mind slaves, of which you are the latest to hear. It's quite funny because as an evil villain plan goes, it mostly consists of charming banter. He's actually quite pleasant to sit down and have a conversation with, which maybe makes him the most sinister master of all. It's when he starts making fourth wall breaking references to well-stocked Big Finish lunches that I start to draw the line.
We love stories, and you are listening to a Big Finish production.
What does that mean for us? Is every Big Finish drama recorded from the Master's TARDIS? And more importantly, what does this guy's mic setup look like? I gotta know. For the Master, despite all of his charming storytelling and discussion, has only one goal in mind, like all men do: whispering in your ear and slyly inserting an earworm. No, seriously, a worm that actually crawls in your ear as a listener. Burnt skeletal men only want one thing, and it's disgusting. He revels in telling you stories. The time he became a dictator president of the Galaxian Empire. The time he almost wiped out every single Doctor adventure. You see, sometimes the burnt master isn't a complete wet blanket. His plans range from standing around as a statue for decades to wiping out every Doctor Who story. Missing episodes in the archives? Blame this fella. And you can only assume that this master podcast plan is actually very successful because you, the listener, become a part of events. It stops being a sit-down Q&A, the master's memoirs, when the Doctor appears. And you, brainwashed little mindslave that you are now, become his human shield. The master kills you to distract the Doctor, as he makes his little getaway, giggling and conniving as he does. So that's a sad one. I don't like being dead in the Doctor Who universe. That makes me sad, actually, and also contradicts those other times I intervened with the Doctor Who universe. Now, that's a funny story. A little bit of a fourth wall break. It becomes a pattern when it happens twice. Did you know that the Jacoby Master, the most evil, warlike of them all, did voiceover work for the children's TV show
In the Night Garden?
What the fuck?
Iggle piggle, iggle onk, we are going to catch.
So Derek Jacobi also is the narrator of that TV show, but I guess somebody, one Who writer, not naming any names, decided that in the Whoniverse, the Master did this. Not Sir Derek Jacobi, the War Master.
Things die. It's just what they do. Every minute of every day, on every world, every galaxy, something dies. Crying over it is spitting into the wind. Death is natural. Yes.
And now I've got more questions. Like, what even was his plan here? Maybe he just finds it funny. And we know he's got an interest in children's TV. Maybe they should have got Delgado to voice the clangers. And we all know which Teletubby Saxon is in leagues with. So yeah, you think of the Master and you think of an evil renegade outlaw. But no, he's actually got a pretty significant and impressive CV. Great voiceover work. It's on IMDb and everything. But soft what light through yonder window breaks, my only love sprung from my only hate. The pawns saved Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, let's talk Shakespeare again. You saw him in the thumbnail. I was never a bard kid in school. We only studied the boring ones. The good Shakespeare is the off-the-wall crazy stuff. The Tempest. Midsummer Night's Dream is just an orgy rom-com with imp demons. It's great. But no, we always had to return to Romeo and Juliet. So in their corona we lay our scene, the 11th Doctor rushes in to knock out the poison from Romeo's hand. Hey, as we know, history can be changed as long as the story remains the same. That is a quote, of course, from the Doctor Who story where the Doctor killed Shakespeare. Not gonna mention that, huh? Oh, I learned something new the other day. Romeo and Juliet might have been real people. That is to say that Shakespeare adapted a poem written in 1562 by one Arthur Brooke. It was claimed that the lovers, their adolescent romance, and their unfortunately timed double suicide was a true event which took place in the year 1303. Shakespeare was pressured to prepare a second version of the play, and Shakespeare decided not to go with the historic happy ending. That happy ending being the 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory staging the entire event so that nobody got killed. The deceased Romeo was cloned in a Sontaran cloning vat, and Juliet was replaced by a Tesselector. But Sam, what about the other deaths in Romeo and Juliet? Well, the Paris, killed by Romeo, was also a Nestine duplicate, and I can only assume Mercutio was a Slitheen or something. Crisis averted, nobody died. The Doctor's been using this get out of jail free card with the Tesselector a whole bunch. I guess they owed him 2 favours. Absolutely silly and bizarre, but most of all unlikely. What skin in the game did the Doctor have? And why couldn't he do this for every tragic, historically recorded event? I don't know. I also don't care. What I do care about is the City of the Saved. Oh god, are we going there? Yeah, fuck it, let's go there. The City of the Saved is another Doctor Who spin-off, first mentioned in One Faction Paradox. The City of the Saved is a afterlife where every single human being that ever existed goes after death in a new immortal body. An afterlife located within a TARDIS, the interior of Compassion, who we spoke about before, a TARDIS human hybrid companion. Yeah, EDA shit. Of course it's the highest of high concepts. Well, in the city where every single artist, celebrity, and every historical figure resides, he's hanging out, chilling with the best of them. But also in the city is Bard Corp. Bard Corp insisted that the original play, Romeo and Juliet, should have a wedding scene in it. And lo and behold, the sick fact suddenly had a wedding scene in it. One of the most popular, beloved plays in human history. Retconned. Hey, let's put in a sex scene as well. And a big sky laser for the end battle. Matrix, final fact please. There are a lot of silents around the place, and they were established on Earth obviously much earlier than 1969. For instance, we know that Torchwood were investigating them. I snapped a quick picture of this inside Time Fracture. When we were in the Torchwood hub, they were investigating silence in the 1890s. Also in there was apparently Da Vinci, who was wearing a silence eye patch. I don't know what the story is there, I'd love to have met him. But in the gap between The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, River Song and the Ponds explored America, splitting up and looking for clues. It's a road trip where you purposely pretend to become renegades hunted by the FBI, so they could all investigate the silence whilst they could still remember, across all of American history over many states. There's a big time gap between these. Eleven claimed that he put the gang through this trauma to give the silence a full sense of security. Great plan, until one of Canton's goons or, I don't know, literally anybody else takes him out instead. Good thing for us, the gang were all keeping diaries. Rory went to Texas, Cali and Oklahoma, where he noted that there was massive talk about UFO abductions, hypothesizing maybe that was a product of America's subconscious memory of the enemy. Good, I like it. Then he goes on to say that the silence stole the scream, because somebody drew a picture of a silent, so they need to suppress that information frequently. Amy travelled from Idaho to Washington to North and South Dakota, finding out that real-world alien encounters from the 40s have their fingerprints all over them. A baby silent was photographed in 1943 in military custody. Amy links this to the Native American belief that cameras were evil, an idea maybe started by the silence. And River was in South Carolina. She theorized that they started the American Civil War as a means of population control. Don't know how to feel about that one, River. There's a lot to think about there. Did the silence abolish slavery? That might be the single most offensive thing ever put to the Doctor Who canon. Is this why the wiki says that it's non-narrative, non-canon? I don't like that word. River then travelled to Pennsylvania, Kentucky and New Hampshire. And the best part of all of this? None of this investigation helped. Not one bit of it. What a colossal waste of time to give the audience a shocking cold open. You really pulled the rug under me there, Moffat. Joke's on you guys. You didn't see a single silent across your whole road trip. Or did you? Also, what's this mark? Thank you for watching my internet video. Say thank you, say kiss you, say bless you to all of my Ko-fi supporters. You too can join this list. Just leave a tip, pay what you like. And all of it goes back into the show. And definitely not on alcoholic beverages.